In today's video, I'm going to be going over a few tips that'll help you have more effective stand-ups. Now, if you're in the software industry, or really it's expanding to pretty much any industry, you're having daily stand-ups, and sometimes more than one a day in the worst situations. Some people have them in morning and afternoon, and we're going to be going over some tips and what to do and what not to do, in my opinion, on how to have the most effective daily stand-up possible. So, like I just mentioned, some people have more than one stand up per day. Now, what I'm proposing and saying here is you should limit your number of stand ups to just one, if possible, or at least the bare minimum number needed to get the information and spread around. Now, why, you might ask? Well, some people might say, well, isn't it better to know what people have done at the beginning and the end of the day? I'm going to say no. I think it's actually worse if you have too many stand-ups, right? So you can have what personally prefer is a stand-up in the morning. Stand up in the morning every morning. And what this helps do is then I can work all day and talk about what I did the next day. Uh, some teams might not like that format, but I think it's personally the most effective way to do it. That way, if you have too many stand-ups, let's say I've got a stand-up at 10 a.m. or 9 a.m., and then I've got a stand-up at 3 p.m., and I'm like, and as you may know, in the software development industry, at least for me and a lot of other newer developers, it takes time to ramp up to actually working. So, it can take anywhere from 5 minutes to 30 minutes to get ramped up and back into what you're doing, depending on how complicated it is and how long you were out of it for a meeting. So let's just say I've got a half hour stand up, which I've been in hour long stand ups before and they're bad. But let's just say, you got a 15, 20-minute stand up that you got to attend every morning. Okay, so, if it's not the first thing you do in the morning, then you start working, you ramp up from the start of work. Let's say it takes 20 minutes. You're working on a relatively complicated task. So 20 minutes past 8 a.m. Then you got your 9 a.m. stand up, but, stand up, for at least for me, I know other people do this as well, but I prepare for stand up. It takes me time to mentally prepare to kind of do it. So what I do is I write down notes on what I'm going to say and stuff like that, and that takes time. So, all right, there we've only got maybe 15, 20 minutes of actual work getting done before our first stand up in the first hour of the day. Then ramp down from stand up at 9:30. Okay, so it'll be somewhere between 9:45 and 10 o'clock before you actually get to work, and then you're actually working maybe for an hour or two, and then it's lunchtime. Then an hour lunch. It's already 1 o'clock. Ramp back up 1:30. Random meetings throughout the day. We all know that happens a lot. But you get the idea. If you have too many stand-ups a day, then you spend more time preparing for stand-ups than you spend actually working, which defeats the entire purpose. And personally, I think if you have more than one stand-up per day, you're doing it wrong. A stand-up should be one scrum team. One developer really shouldn't be part of too many scrum teams because then you're putting them in more meetings and having them do context switching, which is extremely bad. It takes a long time for a developer to switch context like that, and this really impedes progress and impedes your you can see it on the burn down chart. Sometimes tasks will take way longer than they're supposed to. But anyway, yeah, limit your number of stand-ups to the bare minimum number possible, theoretically one per day. And time of day is really up to the team's choice, whatever people prefer. Another thing, keep them short, keep them sweet, keep them to the point. Like I said earlier, I've been in hour-long stand-ups before, sometimes lasting longer with roundtable. It's insane. It takes me almost half an hour, sometimes closer to 40 minutes after a super long stand-up to actually get back into the swing of things. 'Cause I take a break mentally, I go sit outside for a while, and then I gotta get ramped back up into the work, and it just takes so long to get caught back up into the work. And really, what you're doing, the way I like to think about it is, think about how many man hours you're wasting. Multiply that times, what everyone's making. roughly in a per hour basis. And sometimes that stand-up meeting might cost you $1,000 to have if you keep it going for an hour, and depending on how many people you have on there. And, is it really worth it to spend all that money? That's a nice economical way of thinking about it. Or really is like, do you really want your developers to not work as much? Because that's what you're doing if you have super stupid long stand-ups. You're forcing your developers to spend time in stand-up rather than actually working. But yeah, keep them short. Personally, I think depending on your Scrum team size, I know some people are forced to have larger teams. But if you've got a reasonable under 10 person team or whatever, something like that, 15 minutes maximum. Everyone can say their bit, and as soon as you're done, go, or have your round table quickly. What this does is it gives you an extra time to work on the product you're trying to work on, gets you features out faster, keeps your developers happier, because I don't know about you, but in my development experience, some meetings I love, stand-up meetings, I hate when they drag, because half the time it's not relevant to me. One thing, time of day for your stand-up meeting is also very important. Personally, I prefer a nice 10 a.m. that gives me time to sleep. Sleep in. I work from home, so I sleep in till about 9 a.m. Get started a little early, get some stuff done before stand-up. But if you're having an 8 a.m. stand-up, that's awful for a lot of people. Some people would hate that. Some people would love it. Really, what you have to do is keep it on a team by team basis. Don't have your stand up at the very beginning, first second of the day. Don't have it at the very last second of the day, because if it overruns, then you're making people stay extra, and they hate that. That's terrible for morale. Um, but yeah, don't put it too early, don't put it too late. Try to find the sweet spot. And every team has a different sweet spot, depending on whether you've got night owls or early risers. What you should really do there, trying to figure out the time, talk to the team, have a vote, figure out what time works best for everyone. That way, everyone can be happy. And the happier your dev team is, the more productive they are. Um, as for stand up, you need to keep it relevant. Keep it as relevant as possible. Do not go off on tangents that are not related to the active work in the sprint or the scrum team. That is for a separate meeting or roundtable. In theory, you should keep roundtable as relevant as possible to the sprint. Because once you start talking about stuff that's not inside the sprint or relatively or will be relatively soon, like it's okay to talk about stuff that's maybe a month or two out because that can involve work and planning that needs to happen now. That's okay. But what you shouldn't be doing is talking about stuff that's like a year down the line or getting really off the beaten track there, and you're wasting everyone's time. Always be cognizant of people's time because it's the respectful thing to do, and it'll keep people happier and working more. But yeah, keep it relevant. Try to talk only about, what you did yesterday, what you're planning on doing today. Do you have any impediments or blockers? Do you need any help? Stuff like that. Keep it short, sweet, to the point, basic, always about the work that you're doing. Here's one that I've seen happen in the wild. Do not go and have your 45 person stand ups or 30 person stand ups. I've seen that before. It's not fun. Uh, Try to keep it relatively small, like to the Scrum team only. And that sometimes includes your QA people, or, your QA people might be in that. You need to, what some teams will do is, it all depends on the team style and what flavor of agile and, how agile you actually are. But what I found I like is I like to try to keep it to, obviously the core dev team needs to be there. QA, it's helpful. I think it's helpful for them to be there too, so they can understand the schedule of things, or at least a representative from QA to say any opinions they have or ask any questions they have of the dev team while they've got them. That way you're not trying to chase people down after. Uh, Obviously the BAs need to be there. You need to have your business analysts because they have to report back to business. and it's easier if they're just there listening in. They can stay quiet, they don't have to say anything, but they can be there listening to what's going on, progress updates, stuff like that. And I think that helps free up time for the dev lead to actually work. Uh, you know, and obviously you can have a few guests. So, if you're integrating with another team for some reason, if you have a piece that needs to integrate with another team, maybe you can send a representative over there and they can send a representative to your stand up. That way you guys can talk to each other and, that person can get an idea of where the integration is on your end and they can get an integration or an idea where the integration is on your end, stuff like that. Communication is the most important part of development here. But yeah, you can always have a few guests if needed, but keep them small as possible. Don't go overboard. Don't invite the entire business team to your stand up. You know, they're not going to like it. We, the devs, aren't going to like it. And it just makes a mess. But yeah. Anyway, that's the basic idea of it. Keep them relevant, keep them short, keep them small. The more time you spend in stand up, that means less time you have to work. And the less work you get done, the angrier the business gets. Or the client if you're a consultant. Anyway, you get the idea. Keep it short, sweet, and to the point. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you got different opinions, different ideas, any comments, questions, concerns, put them in the comments below or come to the Discord. We'd be happy to talk about it with you. Links in the description. Thanks for watching.